Why am I taking it again? Because it's a higher level of education. And so today, I need you guys to understand something. You are going to go through seasons in your life where it's going to seem like you're relearning a problem. And God is saying this, you learn the first step. Now it's time for the next. And see, if I can do anything tonight, it's simply this. That song, Growing Pains, hit me sideways just here recently because towards the end of last year, I lost my father. Me and him, we weren't close growing up. But where it happened is the older I got, I started no longer seeing from judgmental eyes. And I started seeing him as he is, mistakes and all. And we began to get closer and closer. And so I say all that to say this is because the way that my father died was super, I say unfortunate. God knows what he was doing. But in the middle of that aspect, I know what loss feels like. I understand it. But that was a higher level of education for me. And I didn't want to know, I didn't want to have to learn that lesson. And you have to understand, me, just like the other brothers that you heard, we go through events, we go through services, we go out on the street, and we see people that were sick, now they heal. We see people that were blind, now they can see. We see people that all of a sudden they're deaf, now they can hear. I had just got off of this tour where a lady came up in a wheelchair and she was rude because she left it at the altar. Couldn't even pick up her own stuff. And she walked out, right? I have to preface that because some people's like, what happened? She got healed and she walked out and left her wheelchair at the altar. So I've walked with Jesus long enough to understand what he is capable of doing. Now, this is the lesson that I had to learn. And this is the lesson in the season that I'm in that's necessary to share. The seasons of loss that you experience, those seasons right there, those seasons are going to increase as time goes on. How do I know that? What's a biblical reference? David fought a lion. He passed that test. Then David fought a bear. Then he passed that test. And then David had Goliath. Every person that was in that army only saw David once. That was his viral moment. They're thinking he's just a one-hit wonder. He came out of nowhere. The problem was nobody saw David fighting behind the scenes. Why is that so important? Because there's times that you're going to go through seasons where you feel like you're alone. And let me say this, and I want to say this as loving as possible, because it's going to sound really harsh. You feel alone for a reason. A lot of times, I had to learn that in those moments of feeling alone, I needed to stop getting offended at people for not being there for me. That was one of the most difficult lessons I had to learn, because, see, there's a difference between people walking away and God putting his hand down so they can't follow you. Come on. Because there are things that only God needs to teach you. How do I know? Let's go back to David. David was a sheep herder, yet his name was spoken. His name was spoken in the king's court, and they said, I know a man of God, I know a man of worship, and I know a man of war. How did he learn these things? Only God can teach him. So tonight, understand that in the middle of your storms, in the middle of your struggles, you have to understand through every level of education, it is for a purpose. David could have whined, y'all. David could have whined and said, you know what, it's not fair. Why do I gotta kill this lion? And nobody's even here to cheer me on, right? But that lion prepared him for his bear. And that bear prepared him for his Goliath. tonight, instead of being so upset about the season that you're in, what if God trusted you with that season? What if God said, you know what? You've been faithful up to this. I need you to level up one more time. See, because David could have been okay with the lion, but then a bear came. It's like this. And y'all got to excuse my ADD. If I pass 8th grade, I can't just skip all the other grades and then graduate. I'm ill-equipped. I don't know everything that I need to know. David could have fought that lion and been done, and God may have still allowed him to go to Goliath, but he would have been defeated. Some of us have to understand that in those moments, those high levels of education / pain and storms are for your purpose. They're for your benefit. And I know it doesn't feel like it at the time. Guaranteed, y'all have to understand, I'm a minister. And I'm sitting in a hospital room in a hospital in Houston, and I'm sitting there holding my daddy's hand, and I'm like, it's gonna be good, it's gonna be good. And I'm praying the whole night. We're listening to worship. I'm speaking life over him, and I'm like, man, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, hey, well, you gotta get better. We got stuff to do. You left the backyard a mess. We got things to do. Because I've seen the goodness of God in a lot of other people's lives. But this is what happens if God's will doesn't match with your expectations. Because a lot of times, when God's will does not match up with our expectations, we get offended and bothered at God. And we say, God, you're not the God that you said you are. I've seen, and listen, I'm saying this out of experience, because when I got the call, because I had to leave out, Houston, from where I live at in Amarillo, is 9.5 hours south. And so I was driving 3 times in a month. Go there, couple days, go back home. Go there, couple days, go back home. And that third time, that last time, they put him on a respirator, the whole deal. It was all bad, but I'm like, hey, you don't understand me. I know God. Y'all are tripping. We don't need to make arrangements. Because I know what God can do. But when your expectation does not meet up with God's will, that is your level of trust with God. A lot of people say they love God and they trust Him.
She's not throwing up tonight.
A lot of people say that until they don't get what they want. I trusted God in a lot of different ways, but guess what? When I didn't get what I wanted, and I didn't get that call saying my dad got up off of the hospital bed and he went home, when I didn't get that call, and I got a different call, my faith was challenged. My faith wasn't challenged in who God is. My faith was challenged in how much I trusted Him. Because guess what? Then you start saying things like this. Well, God, you did it for them, why don't you do it for me? But this is the thing. If we want to take it that route, men and women of God, most of the apostles, not all of them, were murdered for the faith. There was people, even across this country right now, that are being murdered for that faith.
Right.